I will now move over now. I'll take some of your submission on people's reaction and put it to our next guest, Adewole Adebayo, the presidential candidate in 2023 of the Social Democratic Party, SDP. He joins me now for his take on the situation in Rivers State, as well as the race for 2027 and a possible merger of major parties, as hinted by the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Thank you very much for giving us your time. I don't know if you heard what my colleague was saying about how people were responding to the presence of the sole administrator in Rivers State. Let's start from there. And of course, what the National Assembly did earlier today by putting a stamp of approval on the president's state of emergency in Rivers State.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's an unfortunate development for a democratic polity where politics became so toxic that elected representatives of the people had to be suspended. And now there is no legislative arm functioning, and there is no executive arm functioning under a democratic dispensation. What you have now is a consul from Abuja been put in charge of the Rivers State people like it was in colonial times. It's an unfortunate development, and it's a lesson to all regarding the fragility of democracy and why those who are custodians of it should not behave like their overlords. They should be very careful, knowing that democracy is quite fragile.
All right, I want to stay a bit on the National Assembly's stamp of approval prior to, because they were supposed to make that decision the day before and then they moved it on to today. There were some speculation and expectation, and of course we had leaders who came out to encourage the National Assembly not to stamp approval, and then there were suggestions on the process that will lead to that approval being given to the state of emergency. No lawmaker, it seemed, you might correct me there if I'm wrong, spoke up about the concerns that has been filtering in the community about this decision by the federal government?
First and foremost, we need to understand that sitting in front of cameras and addressing the media doesn't make anyone the leader particularly. You have to lead on the issues. And to lead on any issues, you have to have consultation with those who are involved, those who are affected. In the National Assembly, those who have the primary duty are the 3 senators from Rivers State and the representatives, the House of Representative members, because they will be able to give an on-the-fact report to their colleagues because they are representing Rivers State. And they should have been able to advise their colleagues about the true state of affairs. I hope that it's not a case where politics essentially overrode any sense of responsibility that they owe to Rivers State. Now, secondly, many of the people appearing in the press conferences and talking, they're talking maybe as concerned citizens. But in leadership, every political party that they come from has senators and representatives in the National Assembly. In the SDP,
if I may comment, I wanted you to focus on the fact that there was no conversation as usual. We would expect whatever decision the Senate has to, there will be conversation on the floor of the House, and lawmakers will air their submission or disagreements with the proposal, but none of that happened. And if you think about how people have expressed divergent views on the constitutionality of setting others in that declaration by the president, one would expect different from the National Assembly, don't you think?
No, not necessarily, because the what we need to know about is the difference between politics, governance, and having an opinion on a subject at a theoretical level. For example, I would imagine that if I were president and I find myself in this kind of situation and I need to declare an emergency, I will consult with the National Assembly first. So, and I would let them understand what I want to do. So maybe that has taken place and they have been able to be made to understand what the president had in mind when he made that order. So if the president fell into error, as I think he fell into error, is suspending the governor and the assembly. I have not read the security report that he read. I don't have all the facts that he has. I'm not the president. I believe the president will have more security report than I do have. But looking at what we know in the public domain and my consultation with people from Rivers State and members of the Senate and the reps, I found out that they have certain information which they believe, rightly or wrongly, suggests that they needed to get rid of the actors. That is to say, though pipelines were being vandalized and all of that, but the real problem was that the dynamics between the governor and the House of Assembly would only lead to more crises on a daily basis. So they wanted to give both sides a pause, because I spoke to senators today before they cast their vote. I tried to talk to a few of them that I knew to say, don't vote for it, ask the president for more explanation. And after they voted, I spoke to a number of them, those in my party and those outside. The overwhelming conclusion is that they believed that even the governor who is suspended is somehow into it and is relieved that he is being given time out to go and resolve his political problem. So they are looking at it from a political point of view, not a political point of view.
Sorry, that's a curious submission that he might be relieved by, him being suspended from office. But again, you said this is politics. Before we leave the subject of Rivers State, I'd like you to speak quickly on the assurances by the sole administrator in his maiden address that civil liberties will be respected. And then the concerns about questions my colleague earlier talked about of people wondering if there is peace in the state, why are you here? Are those questions redundant? Or, opposition of people who think there might still be some glimmer that this situation is temporary?
We see we have to wear our adult cap now and stop just joking around it. Number one, there is no peace where a House of Assembly is set on fire or demolished. There is no peace where a governor is trying to attend a session of the House of Assembly and is being locked out. There's no peace if you have to go to the Supreme Court all the way to know who is the member of the Assembly and if pipelines are being busted here and there. What we need to do now is to let leaders be leaders. Governor Fubara is still the governor of the state. It's only that his writs are suspended. All he needs to do is take leadership and talk to the assembly people and work it out. This emergency situation can go away next week.
All right.
They need to go and find.
While we wait for what happens in the coming days, let's quickly talk about the coalition and the timing of the announcement of a coalition of opposition political leaders hinting at a merger ahead of the 2027 elections.
Just a wish, just a talk, because you will notice that today's conference is not a meeting of political parties. It's a meeting of politicians who like one another and who agree on the fact that Tinubu is such a terrible president. But that's not how you build an alliance. That's just, most Nigerians agree, from my own research, that the APC and President Tinubu are not doing too well. But it's not a question of alliance. What they are having there is just a committee of friends, because alliances are coming together on platforms. So if the aim is to have alliances, then the platforms have to start talking to one another. You will see the irony of it that the former vice president is from the PDP. He said that what the president did is not correct, but majority of the PDP senators and representatives voted for it. So the gentleman on the right side is from Labour, and majority of Labour senators and representatives voted for it. And in the SDP, we are reviewing because we are told our members not to vote for it. And where we get the vote, we'll see whether they comply with it. So I think that people should go back to their platform. Be a good PDP person if you're a PDP first. Be a good Labour person if you're a Labour first. Be a good SDP person if you're an SDP first, before you start talking of alliances. Because what matters is that Nigerian people want a strong challenge to the APC, and the only way you can get that strong challenge is for people to bury their ambition and try to have a common platform. If you don't have it, it's just grandstanding and it will be a waste of time.
Mr. Adebayo, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.